Hello everyone, my name is Kalen and today I would like to show you the app that I built called Custom Data Organizer, or Custom D if you're trying to sound cool. This app is a whole new way of managing personal data designed for individual unique people. So what you're seeing here is the default home page. This is what you're going to see. This is what you're going to see when you haven't done anything yet in the app. So up here at the top, we've got my little spiel about what the app is. And then here we've got a playlist of my YouTube videos where I do my best to explain how the app works. And then scrolling down a little bit, in this section are sample setups that you can download and use yourself. Further down here, these are a few of my own personal data tracking systems here, and these are all live. You can download these and they will automatically update if you for some reason want to watch which movies I add to my watch list. And then further down here we have just more spiel about what's going on in the app, and then we got a bunch of release notes. So that's the default home page, but what I want to show you today is a brand new setup. Let's say that you want to track your bicycle trips, for example. So let's just dive right in, and I'm going to show you how to create a bicycle trip tracking system here. So let's start out. We're going to create, we've got all these different types of objects that we can create in here. I'm going to show all of these to you in the course of this video, but we're going to start with trackers. A tracker is basically just a single data set. So let's start with a couple of text trackers. We're going to want a name tracker, a notes, we want a tracker for distance, a tracker for time, and then a geolocation tracker. So one of the first things I want to do is come down here and select my icon. I'm going to pick the little bicycle there. So this is a text tracker to start with. Since we're creating the name, I want the name to use raw text instead of rich text. We're going to add a prompt text there. We don't need a default value. Record user is if you're going to have multiple users all interacting in the same data set. We're going to say no to that right now. And then that's really about all we need. So we're going to save as a new tracker, and when you name things, it's a good idea to have consistent prefixes. So for this particular system, I am going to call this bike trip. So all of my items that I create I'm going to prefix all of the items that I create with the words bike trip, just to make it easier for me to keep track of everything. So we're going to call this bike trip name. Then I want to create a second text tracker that uses rich text. And we're going to call this bike trip notes. So there we have our text trackers, and next we're going to do our number trackers. If you remember, we want a distance. Let's start with distance, and we're going to save this one, bike trip distance. And then we're going to have, I gotta learn to type. We're going to have a duration tracker here. Oh, we create bike trip duration. And then the final one was for a geolocation type. And if you see, we've got a bunch of different types, data types here that you can pick, but the main ones you're going to be using are number and text, most likely, and sometimes true and false. But this geolocation one is kind of neat, that it uses your device's geolocation to automatically track your place on the earth if you so choose. So we are going to call this bike trip location. And now so that should be 5. Oh, I did this incorrect. Oh, wait, no. So for the geolocation doesn't actually have any buttons or any interfaces when you actually input the data. So if you input a prompt text here, it'll show that text there. But if you leave this blank, then it won't show anything as part of the geolocation. It'll just sort of be invisibly tracking your location. Actually, let's put in some text here. Tracking my location automatically. Let's say that. How about that? Okay. And we're going to save that, and let's now jump over to our manage page and make sure that we did all of this correctly. So we've got distance, duration, location, name, and notes. So together these are going to be combined to create our data set. You can think of each one of these as a data series, or each one of these would be sort of like a line in a spreadsheet. And we're going to be adding data to them here in a few minutes. So the next thing we're going to do here is create something called a card. Now a card is basically what combines your trackers into cohesive units. So first thing we do, of course, is as usual, is we grab our favorite icon, and then we select our user objects. And so in this case, we want to bring in all of these trackers into our card. Now, all of these trackers are considered a cohesive data set, as long as you update them through this card and not through the individual tracker instances. And so we can reorder these. Let's put the name at the top, and then under that will be notes, and that looks like a decent order. And up here, this is very important. Locking the trackers is what basically designates these as a cohesive set. So it's going to assume that all of these are one unit. And it's going to synchronize all of your dates. So when you input data through this card, it will update all 5 of these trackers simultaneously with a identical date stamp. And so we're going to save this card as bike trip input. And we're going to create that. And now that it is saved, we can preview this card. And as you can see, we have our different input fields. So we've got our name here with raw text. We've got our notes with rich text. We've got our distance field, which takes a number, and duration field, which takes a number. And then this is just sort of telling us that we're automatically tracking a location. So it now looks like we've got my card set up correctly. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new dashboard. Now I could just come back to this home page over here and just start adding stuff here, but I would rather create a designated dashboard for my bike trip, because I'm going to share this later, and once I'm done with this, I'm going to add it to this list here as a sample. So by the time you're watching this video, you will be able to just come and download everything that I'm building here right from this home page here. One thing that I should show you real quick is all of these help icons here. And so whenever you have a question about what a field does or about what a pop-up does, you got these help icons here. You've got help icons across most things in the app. If you're ever confused, I know that this app does have a little bit of a learning curve. It's kind of a whole new way of looking at personal data management. So it's understandable if you get a little confused from time to time. Okay, next thing I'm going to show you is creating a dashboard. Come in here to Objects and we hit Dashboards. And let's go with the consistent icon, of course. And we save as a new bike trip main dash. Let's call it that. Yeah, good enough. Most of the options here are irrelevant. So I guess that's it. So as soon as you have created your dashboard, you can now navigate to your dashboard from your main menu up here. So let's go to this dashboard, and of course this looks exactly the same as the home page because we have nothing there. So let's add something here. Let's go into Add Item to Dashboard, and we're going to, of course, add the entire card. Now we're going to, and that is a bug there. If you see, I found a bug where this little icon, this resize icon is not in the right place. Hopefully I will have that fixed by the time you look at this app. So right there is our input system on our new dashboard. And at this point I can start entering data. So let's enter some pretend bicycle races. So we're going to call this first one Seattle No Rain, and in this one what did I do? Let's see. It kept threatening to rain, but never did. I kept stopping for coffee. Alright, there we go. And let's say, how long is this trip going to be? Let's say this was 60 miles. And it took, I don't know, how fast does bicyclists go? Let's say so this took 4 hours, let's say. Okay. And we're going to enter that, and then I'm just going to real quick enter a couple more. And this one was 120, and it took, I don't know, 6 hours. You know what, let's bold that for some reason. Let's bold the downs. Yeah, down means bold. Bold. Oh, let's italicize the downs and ups. Okay. What? 3 hours? I don't know. So I have now entered 4 data points. So let's just go and look at these. So we can come in here to the edit dashboard, and when we're in the edit dashboard, we can of course here go and edit the card. And from the card we can edit the data. And so here we have all 4 of our data points here, and we can edit them if we want to in here. And we can also go into the individual trackers and edit their data individually. But we don't want to do that because we want to keep this as a cohesive set through the card. Okay, so now that we have our data input system, now we want to display that data in fun and useful ways, because data is useless if it is not properly displayed to the user. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have two ways of doing that. We have reports and we have charts. So let's start by creating our first report. Report. Here is the report editor. Let's select that little bicycle guy there. We might as well go ahead and save this. Bike trip main report. Let's call it that. So, how the basic idea of the reports works, we've got three text fields here. This text field is what's shown at the beginning of the report. This text field, whatever you put in here, is shown at the end of the report. And this is the important text field, and this one gets repeated once for every data point that you have in your set, or basically once for every data point in the trackers that you refer to in this field. So let's start. Let's just create a. Just start creating a report here. Let's call this bike trip. Let's call this my bike trips. Good enough. It's a heck of a title. Okay. And let's give that a header. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. And then here is where we want the core of our data output. So what we're going to do is we're going to add what's called a shortcode. This shortcode will refer to various different items and pieces of data and different things that you want to insert into your reports to make them dynamic. So to start with, we're going to just add in the value of a particular tracker. So let's start with the name. So a shortcode, you can see in the text, is represented by opening parentheses, two opening parentheses, and two closed parentheses. And then at the front you have the name of the shortcode, the type of shortcode, and then you have the name of the tracker that you are using, and then here you have some extra parameters. In this case, this format parameter is useless. I really need to remove this. It should not exist here on the text trackers. It's really only good for number trackers, so I should remove that. Okay, so this is our name. So let's bold that. Let's bold that, and then we're going to go to the next line, and we're going to add another shortcode for the trip notes. And that we are going to unbold. And then on the next line, let's do the distance. Yes, let's input distance. And here, because we have a number tracker, we need to put in the preferred format. So basically, we've set this up to have 2 points after the decimal, two numbers after the decimal. Okay. So we add that. So let's let people know what this is. Distance, and we're going to add a duration tracker as well. Let's add the duration duration. We're going to do the same thing here. We want 2 numbers after the decimal point. So now let's save this and just see what it looks like. Alright, so far we are outputting all of our different data points. No, not yet. We forgot about the geolocation. The geolocation is a little bit more complicated, and I will show you that later. Now, let's get a little bit more complicated here, and let's calculate miles per hour, since I just sort of already decided that the distance is going to be tracked in miles and the duration is going to be tracked in hours, but of course you can do whatever you want with that. So now we've inserted a few value shortcodes. Now we're going to insert a math shortcode. It'll allow us to do a little bit of math and calculate the miles per hour that you did for each race or for each trip. So here is our pop-up that helps us create our math function. So we select, first thing we do is we select the trackers that we want to use. So in this case we are going to be using the distance and the duration to come up with our formula here. And so in this case, once you select your trackers, you'll see that your variables populate. We've got A, B, C, D. We don't have E because that's reserved for something else. I forget what E is. E is reserved for something else. We got A, B, C, D, F, G, H. Same thing with I. I is an iterator, so we can't use that. But if you see here, we've got some variables we can use. So we're going to go with a simple formula here. We're going to do the distance divided by duration. So that is simply A divided by F. And so we can switch over here to the output panel and see what we've got. So it looks like the first trip was 15 miles per hour and the second trip was 20 miles per hour. This one was 13 miles per hour, and for our final data point we had 18 miles per hour average. Now let's see if this is, yes, there we go. And so if you want to, you can play with the format here to get a feel for how the number formatting is supposed to work. But we're going to go with the same old 2 and 2. So that forces it to have 2 decimals, or 2 numbers after the decimal. So we are now done with our math shortcode. And we hit done down here, and it shows up right here. Now let's save this and then preview and see if we've got, yes, we've got our mile per hour calculation for each data point now. So next I could show you how to make a link to Google Maps. So that using the geolocation, you can create a link that goes directly to that location on Google Maps. And I assume that you could do the same thing with any other map service that just has a basic URL interface. But I'm gonna show you that later. I also want to show you one more little feature in the reports, which is the linking ability. Actually, it's more than a little feature. I'm rather proud of this feature. So let's insert a link. Here you can select from a number of different types of links. The standard web link, of course, is just going to point you to any old URL that you want. But then you can do all sorts of other fun stuff. You can open objects, such as trackers, reports, or charts. You can delete data points right from your report. You can toggle Boolean data points. That's the true-false. You can toggle the true-false value. That's how you create checklists that can be checked on and off. You can create a link to edit a particular data point, or a link to edit an entire data set. Or you can click on a link. You can have a link that will, when clicked, will change the order of your data in your report. And then, of course, we've got a refresh report link option here. So what am I going to do? Let's edit a particular data point. Let's do that. Let's add it. We want to edit the particular data point of the notes so that we can update the notes for that trip right from our report. Edit. Well, that's really all we need is the word edit there for the link text. So, and oh yes, down here we choose the index that we want to edit, and in this case it's the current index, last indexed custom static index. Yeah, vast majority of time you're going to be just going with current index in this case. And so now we have our edit shortcode right there in the data point text. So now we save that and we test. So here we have our edit button. So from any data point in our report, we can simply click the edit button and we will see that we can edit it right there. Okay, next thing I want to show you is the charts. So let's get started on the charts real quick here. In order to create a quick little chart, all you need to do is come into your card and click this little generate chart button. Now what we have here is a basic chart with our 2 number trackers automatically inserted into our chart. So we will choose our icon there. And let's save this as bike trip chart. And let's create that and see what it looks like. And there we have our quick and dirty chart. And you can see we're tracking duration there, way down there, and distance. So obviously this doesn't, you wouldn't use this kind of chart in the real world, but you can see that we can chart just about anything here. So here is the configuration for the chart. And you can just come in here and change all sorts of different options for this. And if you want to learn more about what all of these different options are, you can click here and we come over to this other website, because I am using this library called HighCharts. And you can come over to HighCharts, and if you know how to dig through their website, you can view options here and get all sorts of examples of things that you can do with the charts here. And they've got, you can do line charts and bar charts and pie charts and all sorts of different charts. And I honestly couldn't even begin to tell you how many different types of charts you could create with this. I don't even know. Basically, how this works is right down in here in this series. So basically what you're looking at here is what's known as JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is basically just a standard way that web developers and all sorts of different programmers use to move data around. JSON is actually not super complex, and just about any programmer out there is going to be able to have a basic understanding of this. So anyway, in this series, we've got an array here, and here you can see we've got a short code, just like we had in the reports. And so just about everything in this settings JSON object will match up with a high charts object, except for this data point template property is essentially the template for the data point that will be created and fed into the high chart system. So if you come down here, we can actually show what the configuration will look like once we've actually parsed out all the values. So as you can see here are the values that are actually going to be shown in the chart. Anyway, I hope that made sense. I know that's a little confusing, but most programmers should be able to get a handle on this fairly easily, and especially with the help of the High Charts website. In theory, you could create any sort of charts. You could make any of your charts look like these. But I haven't actually tested the vast majority of the charting features in here. Anyway, okay. So let me just show you real quick, even though this is not at all a real world situation, like it doesn't make any sense why you would chart things this way. Let's just bike trip miles per hour, and we can do the same thing here that we did in our report. And actually, just for fun, we're going to do this slightly differently. We're going to come over here to the report and see, we can just copy and paste this short code right there. And now that should give us a third. Yep, and there we've got our miles per hour line in addition to the other two lines. And we can very easily change the style of the chart. That looks sideways to me. But I'm sure that there are settings that could make it point upward. Alright, let me show you this real quick. We're going to change the type here. Type. We're going to make this a column chart. And we hit save and preview that, and the lines are now columns. So now let's show you real quick the theme system. So if you don't like the colors that I've chosen for this app, you can come in here to themes and you can change them. We've got a bunch of different generated themes here that you can choose from, or of course you can come over here and create your own and save as many of them as you like, and these of course will show up in your theme section on your manage page. So should we go for the rest of this video with a pink theme? How about that, huh? That sounds fun, right? Let's do pink today. Okay, what's next? Next, I'm going to show you possibly the most important part of this app, which is all of the cloud functions. So in order to use the cloud feature where you can automatically synchronize between devices and between users, we first need to have a user. So I am going to come over here and log in. Here's the register page where you can fill out and create a user for yourself. Okay, so I am now logged in as one of my secondary users. I am logged in as custom D samples. This is the user that I use to manage the samples that I have linked on the default homepage. And here you can see these are the save instances here. So we are going to create a new save instance today for the bike trip tracking system. So I'm going to come into objects and saves. This is the save editor. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of the objects that we want to include in this particular save. And in this case, we want everything associated with the bike trip. Now, what I can do is I can come up here to the filter and just type in, this is why you want a consistent prefix. So I can just type in bike trip and filter out everything that we don't want. In this case, it's just the home page. And so, of course, yet again, we select our icon and we save as new. Now, in this case, when we save as new, this is actually going to save a new entry into the cloud. This is actually going to get saved to the server to our account. Whereas before this, everything else that we've done has only been saved to our local, to the local device, to the local browser. So now let's go ahead and save to the cloud. We can also, instead of saving to the cloud, we can save to a file. And this will output just a simple text file that includes everything that can be reloaded. You can pass this file around. If you don't want to create a user for this app, you can pretty much do, I mean, it's not as slick, but you have to pass your text files around, but you can share data that way. All right, but let's save this to the cloud, and this time we don't really care about the prefix because this is the save instance that manages everything within that. So the prefix is not as important when we're creating a save, but you know, we're going to call it bike trip anyway. Bike trip tracking system. Whatever, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're good. Good enough, right? Okay. And you'll see there that it was automatically added to my users lists of saves. So now I can go and download this whole system, including all the data, everything that we have created so far can be downloaded. Now, one thing I should point out is that, as you can see, there are these new data objects. There's one data object for every tracker object. So every tracker will automatically create a data object. That's the only type of object that does that. And so you will always have a data object and a matching tracker object. Now, if you notice, you don't need to include both of them. You can include one but not the other. And it might be risky and confusing to do that. But there are some cases where you might want to do that and do some more advanced sharing where you maybe have access to the data but not the input system, for example. So let me show you some more important features here in the share or in the save system. So here we have sharing, which is very important because if you do not properly set your permissions, then you won't be able to share this. So our global permissions here, we go private by default, of course, which means that only your user will have access to this. Now, I can switch this. In this case, I want anyone to be able to download and use this setup, but I do not want people coming in here and editing it. So we're going to set this to anyone can read. Now, on top of that, these are global. So if I set this to users can write, that'll basically mean it could, in theory, be a free-for-all, and pretty much anyone with the link to your setup could come in and destroy everything. So you don't want to use this unless you know that everyone you've shared it with is trustworthy. What's a better option for you is to set it to either anyone can read or private by default, and then come down here. You can, if you know the username or the email that they signed up with, you can add their name here and give them either write permission or simply read permission. So now we have our save instance, and here we can copy the share URL. This is the share URL, and anytime you can also come down here and click on any of these save instances, and you got all these different options here. Here we can just see what's in them, or we can go ahead and download them, or what we want to do here is copy the load URL, which if you see here, it can just be, see, that is an example of a load URL. So you would just simply send that to whoever you want to load, whoever you want to share your data tracking system with. I'm going to show you the sharing system. Okay, let's just show this sharing system. I am going to enter my other user here, and let's give them the right permission. Oh, I spelled that wrong. SGTSQUEEZE, and give them right permission, and there we go, and we properly found that user in the system. So now we want to save. Alright, let's jump over to an incognito window so that I can log in as a different user. And see, we are in a now blank version of Custom Data Organizer. We're going to come in here to Settings. Okay, so we are now logged in as Sergeant Squeeze. This is basically just my test user. So let's come back here and we want the share URL. And we're going to come in here and it gives us the option to download it or do other things with it. So now we can download it. And here we see the bike trip dash that we created over there on the other account. So let's, you know what, let's add the report. Let's add the report onto the dashboard. There we go, because we want the report there. All right, there we have it. Now, however, this is not yet synchronized. We actually need to go and tell this to synchronize. So what we want to do, come over here. Okay, so we come over here to our save list and we click on the bike trip tracking system and we do what's called enable the quick save. So this hitting enable quick save is basically what enables all of the automatic synchronization between you and the cloud. This has to be enabled in order for things to be automatically synchronized. So we hit enable, and in order to enable it, we must download a fresh copy. So we load everything, and now we come over here to settings. We see that the bike trip tracking system is now set as a quick save, and we can actually enable and disable both auto save and auto update. And when we enable this as a quick save, it shows up here in our main list, and at any point we want, we can come in here and just hit this button and save it. But since we have auto save and auto update checked, we don't ever need to do that. It's just going to automatically update all of our data and all of our changes. So let's make a change. Here we come over to our dashboard. And so let's add an item. Let's add the report. So now we edit that to make it bigger. So there, we'll call that our dashboard. And quit editing, as we can see down here, a little notification that it was auto-saved. So that should now be saved to the server. Now we come over here. This is my regular user. This of course is back in my samples user. If we come over here, the bike trip main dash is not yet updated, and that is because we did not set this as a quick save. So if we simply set this as a quick save here, then it will load the new system. And you can see here that we have the update. Now since both users at this point in time have set this save as a quick save, let's edit the notes here, and let's just put a bunch of, we're just really excited about the coffee and the lack of rain, we'll say. We got a bunch of whoop. So that is updated here. And in theory, we should come over here, and as we see, it has been updated on our other user. Okay, all right. Let's see here. Show quick save. Okay. I guess that's about it. I'm not going to go back and show you how to build a Google Maps link using the geolocation tracking information. I think that will, I'll do that in another video, because I think that this video has probably at this point gotten long enough. Anyway, that is the app that I built Thank you very much for watching. It is completely usable. Feel free to go and start playing with it. And if you have feedback, feel free to make comments on these videos or contact me directly. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a happy data tracking experience. Thank you very much. Good night.